All right, we're on. Okay, it is another Wednesday. Yes, Wednesday, our new night, people. Wednesday, and this is the Pundits Pundit. I'm your moderator, Denzel Snipes. I'm here with Scott, the Motor City Madmouth, Morganroth, who's also the owner. I got it right this time. Owner of the South Florida Tribune, and we're here on. There's not a song or a melody for Thursday night, but we can modify it though, can't we?
Anything you want, man. When you're in the control seat, it don't matter. You can do whatever you want, Denzel. Glad to be on this show. I look forward to my Wednesday doubleheader with this one leading off. So good stuff.
Absolutely, and also we have he's currently in the Batmobile, but we have Jacob Christner, the Pundits Pundit. Ironically, that's his nickname. What's going on, Jacob? Oh, he's muted.
There he is.
Yeah, he's muted.
Hopefully nobody cut him off.
You see, Jacob's muted. Let me try telling him he's muted.
All right, he's not anymore.
Here.
Okay, there we go.
Yep. Nope. It's been an interesting week. And now it's finishing off. It's going to be finishing. So we're working on this with tremendous tonight.
Man, you totally sounded like RoboCop getting trash compacted in. I think it was the second film.
I would get my area. I'll get that, okay?
Okay. And hey, look, along comes a professional fan. This is Jenn, the professional fan. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you? Sorry, I was a few minutes late.
Oh, okay, I got you. You're going number 4.
I thought I'd make you proud, Denzel.
Hey, no doubt about it. Well, we'll go ahead and get started here, and we want to let everybody know that we are sponsored by the Score No Score app on Apple App Store and Google Play Store. Looks like Jacob will be right back with us in a minute. Just to let everybody know at home, the current counter is 0-0. I'm sure Jacob's going to be lighting both sides of that scoreboard up right when he comes back. But I wanted to start off with our first topic, and that is Deion Sanders calls out NFL scouts not visiting HBCUs. So, he's been making the waves as one of the hottest coaches in college football within the last year or so. He is the head coach at Jackson State. He full on believes that HBCUs have as much talent as those at the FBS level. And as of late, he found himself calling out NFL scouts for not going and visiting HBCUs and seeing them as they try out for the next level. He actually said, and I quote, that if I see you at Mississippi State or at Ole Miss, that's messed up. So in his mind, he's thinking, okay, you got the big schools and everything, and whether it's a money thing or not, it's still wrong. It's still not giving people a fair chance across the board. Before I pass it off to Jenn, I would just like to let everybody know at home that the late Steve McNair went to an HBCU. He went to Alcorn State. He actually is the only one from an HBCU school to finish in the top 5 in the Heisman voting. Before he was he was drafted by my Houston Oilers, and then they went to the Tennessee and became the Titans. But he was awesome. He was electric at Alcorn State. So, Jenn, passing on to you, your thoughts on this whole situation.
I mean, Deion's probably not wrong in that one because he's not. I mean, I'm not a Deion Sanders fan, but he's probably not wrong on that. In 2019, there were only 32 active players in the NFL that went to an HBCU. So, I mean, it's not right that they're getting overlooked. And, sorry. We did that at the same time. Sorry. I wasn't trying to laugh at Deion whatsoever. Sorry.
How you doing, Jenn? I saw how sexy you sounded when you said you had the fart.
I know, right? You know what? That was all for Denzel.
Denzel,
Go
I
ahead.
knew you had some freakish shit there.
No.
Go ahead, Jen. Continue.
He was. So, I mean, it's not necessarily wrong, but how many of these coaches are also actively trying to get NFL scouts to come to their colleges?
Right.
And I'm not trying to be rude, because if you have, I'm going to go back to high school. So Antoine Jameson went to my high school. For those who don't know, Antoine Jameson was touted to be the next Michael Jordan, and he had a stellar career, and he still works for the Lakers, I think, last time I checked his wiki page. But had he not gone to Carolina, had he gone to one of the other many schools, and I saw he had a mailbox in the teacher's lounge. That thing was 1.5 rows tall because of all the letters. And I'm not exaggerating. So the coaches have to also really promote these players. It can't just be on the scouts, because how many college players do you have versus how many players in the NFL?
True. I mean, you figure, I think it's broken down to only about 1 or 2% actually make it to the pro level. And then make it and be successful is even smaller. And you can pretty much go into the point decimals and how many actually make the Hall of Fame. So you're more of on a either side kind of coin here. Like, yeah, they can go and visit, but the coaches can promote it more too.
Right. And it has to be give and take. That's how I see it. Because, but then you look at it, you have 32 NFL teams. So you have what? Roughly 96 scouts. Maybe a few more. I'm not really sure. I'm just going with an average of 3 scouts per team. Don't know why. That just seems about right. Somebody can correct me. But that's a lot of colleges. Because on the same hand, I can tell you, hush. Sorry, guys. Now you get to hear my dog barking.
Hello, sorry.
Sorry, do you hear Uncle Jake? And your dog sitter, Denzel? All right, sorry. We wanted sound effects tonight, apparently, gentlemen. But at Catawba College, I can guarantee you they weren't going to go scout there either. That's an hour away from here at University of Greensboro, at Pembroke, at Santa Fe College, a small school in Texas. I don't know a lot of small schools in Texas. Like, how long ago was it before Baylor started getting a lot of like NFL scouts?
Well, I mean, shoot, like I graduated from Abilene Christian, and we had a student body of like 4K.
Yeah, how many came
when
to
it comes
Abilene?
to you, I would think it's Abilene atheist or agnostic.
Yeah, and then where's like, why are people upset that they're not getting a lot of credit? Like, I think the reason Malik got so much attention was because of Cam.
Probably
because Cam was his mentor and still is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all in how you're getting that attention.
Okay, then. Well, Scott, pass it on to you. What do you think? Do you you little on the fence, or what's going on?
Oh no, I got a lot to talk about on this subject. So, guys, if I were you, I'd get on your horse and strap in. Boy, I'm going to give you a little bit of history. By the way, what color is my beard, Denzel and Jacob?
It is gray.
Okay, good. Then it's definitely appropriate for this segment. Okay, number one. Okay, I don't like Deion Sanders because he's so stupid as a player when he thought that the Fords couldn't afford him, but the Lions got the better Sanders and Barry Sanders. So with that said, yeah, and we definitely are happy to have had Barry Sanders. We had him his entire career, and Deion would have jumped off. With that said, okay, I think he's done a heck of a job as a coach. So let's take a little bit of, let's go back in history a little bit, okay? You ever heard of Doug Williams?
Absolutely.
Can I ask you a question? Was he pretty good?
Oh, yeah.
Won first black quarterback to win Super Bowl MVP.
Okay, good. Yes, so there's item number one. Doug Williams was pretty good. Ever heard of Jerry Rice?
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Was he pretty good?
Yeah.
Hall of Famer. Won Super Bowl most valuable player. Once set the Super Bowl record for receptions in the Super Bowl game.
Okay, you ever heard of Walter Payton?
Absolutely.
Who's
Pretty
he?
good, right?
Jackson State. Yeah, right.
Okay, so and now I'm going to throw a curveball out of you that you guys will never know, but only in the Pundits Pundit will you get this when I'm talking. Okay, I know we'll be referring to him later on in the show. Lyle Alzado, right? You guys will never ever guess the college that he went to, but back in 1971, he was drafted by Yankton College as a 79th pick overall. Has anybody on this panel heard of Yankton College?
No.
Never.
I haven't
What's
either until I
Yankton
started
College?
Researching. Yankton College is the 79th pick overall. So where am I going with all this? Okay. Number one, Deion Sanders is right. There's a lot of great talent at every level that there is. Now, I'm going to make a bold prediction that I've been waiting to talk about here. Okay. He can talk about his HBCU business all he wants. But you ready for this? You will only hear it, folks, on Pundits Pundit Sideline Sports. So I'm going on record to say this. Okay, you ready? I predict that Deion Sanders has a good shot at being the next head coach at Nebraska.
Oh no!
No.
No, you may not like it, but hear me out. Hear me out. No, you may not like it, but here's my gut feeling. I think it'll be Bill O'Brien or him. And the only reason why I say that is that
Bill O'Brien.
Well, you never know. He tried to fix Penn State around a while back after the Paterno mess. So you got to give him. A lot of people, I knew that you guys were responding to Deion Sanders this way. He wants to build a legacy at an HBCU, and that's fine. He'll do that, okay? And a lot of people may wonder, why would he go to Nebraska? If you had a chance to go to a Power 5 school with the resources that he has, okay, think about it. You have an opportunity to go to a Power 5 school with the resources. I wouldn't rule it out. I've seen crazier things happen. And I'll tell you what, this is a hunch. I knew that you guys are going to respond this way, which is why I incorporated. Because if I'm right, you guys are going to owe my wife Candy and I the biggest cotton picking steak you can ever come up with. And if I'm wrong, I'll eat the biggest piece of crow I've ever done. But it won't be the first time. It won't be the last time. So I'm just getting that out here on record, okay? And it's okay. Now, all I can tell you is there's great talent at the HBCU level. And he's right. You know, you need to. And I think there were some players that were drafted by HBCUs in the NFL draft. Were there enough of them to justify what he's saying? No. But you got a guy who's a high-profile individual doing some good things at Jackson State. I understand he's upgraded some of the facilities out there. And as a result, you know, the longer he stays there, they're better off for HBCU. So I think Deion Sanders has a chance to not only build that particular HBCU, but he's a stable. Don't tell me in the world that you're going to have a coach that's not looking for a Power 5 job. Maybe Deion Sanders and Nebraska might be considered the modern day version of the Odd Couple, but I've seen crazier things happen covering football for the last 40 years. It wouldn't be out of the question. Is it perception, really? I don't know. TBD. Okay. But I love what Deion Sanders is doing and trying to get the message out there. And that's why I mentioned these other players, like I told you before. Doug Williams, Jerry Rice,
Walter Payton.
And I know that McNair was brought on here, another good one. And guess what? They all performed well, okay, at that level. And I know later on the Sports Exchange, I have some interesting topics talking about FCS and lower seeded schools and creating upsets. But I can tell you, you can find good players anywhere. You got 135, over 130 Division I schools and the HBCUs. In addition to the Division II or III, you can find talent anywhere. Ever heard of the NFL Scouting Combine? Guess what? You find hidden gems there. And you don't know where the heck they're coming from anyhow. So I know that what I had to say was loaded. And I love some of the response you guys gave me because it just motivates me more to see you guys look at me later on. Heard it here from him first.
I mean, I'm not actually mad at that take as far as Nebraska because it's a big school. I think we all said no in unison like that because we don't want that for him. I know
I don't want him in a big one anyway. I don't want him in a big program anyway.
Well, from my perception, and this is just me, but we saw what just happened with Scott Frost, and that's his alma mater. Okay, ever since him And some may even say Bo Pelini, Nebraska's been a shop of horrors for coaches.
It has. And not only that, I'll help you back your point up that Frank Solich wouldn't appreciate it. But the only reason why I mentioned Deion Sanders to me for this particular job, he's the most electrifying, polarizing individual on the planet. And if there's any coach that can conceivably recruit athletes to Nebraska, I think he's the only one that can do it. I'm not saying there won't be other qualified coaches, but he's a polarizing guy. The guy's won championship. If he walked into my living room and told me I have a lot of NFL connections that could get you in the league and he's won championships, don't you think I believe him? Oh, you better believe it. His track record is unbelievable. Hey, listen, you know what? I've colored college football a lot of years, and I've worked with coaches that were in the NFL, namely Howard Schnellenberger locally. I'm not trying to get off topic, but you walk in there and you
do that. We get off topic all the time. Don't worry about it.
Okay, thank you. But Howard Schnellenberger, and I had many, many conversations with him, said, you know, Scott, I carry a lot of weight walking into these homes because I've won a national championship. And as a result, you know, that carries a lot of weight with these particular families. So you never know. You really never do. So, yeah, you don't want it for them. But I totally empathize where you're coming from. I really do. But there's any individuals. You're right, though. I mean, Frank Solich and Bo Pelini got run out the door. 9 wins wasn't enough. Nebraska, who are you going to get there? But so everything you're right, and I'm glad in unison you took the position that you took. But you got to remember, Deion Sanders to me, you know, don't think he ended up learning a thing or two from Nick Saban with their conversations either. I mean, you know, indirectly he's got some Saban influence as well beyond the commercials that he exists. So, hey, you know what? Like you say, what ifs is all part of this show here. That's what makes it such an entertaining thing. And if our objective is whether we agree or disagree, at least the one thing we've got going is we make people think, and that's really what it's all about, to generate comments. But I didn't do that just to generate comments. It's just a gut feeling. And in journalism, you're going to find that you rely on your gut feelings and hunches, to me, to do it. And yes, I agree, Lee Pate, that he needs a few more years at Jackson State. If he doesn't get it now, who's to say he won't get it down the road or any other Power 5? If he's winning, he's a hot
I don't want
commodity.
him one. I don't want him in a Power 5. I mean, I don't.
Jacob, go ahead, man.
All right. I'm sorry if I interrupted you. I just
that's
want to say
okay.
this. By the way, when you say Deion, that shirt that that Denzel has on tonight, please. When you talk that, please, yeah. That's what I say with him going to Nebraska. No,
yeah, but you know what? I got a shirt called Conference USA Football. Where
it didn't have anything to do with that, but
no. The point is you can find talent even in that. If you're not going,
that's
to
true.
UNC
school. Charlotte has 3, as in conference football, has 3 NFL players now, and we've only been around for 8 years.
Here's the issue.
Florida Atlantic's got a lot of them too. You know, there are a lot of schools that are on the verge of doing some pretty good things.
But my husband graduated magna cum laude in 2 degrees from UNC Charlotte. I can't like Florida.
Well, here's the issue.
Our rivals.
Here's the issue, though.
No, but you can like the people from here.
Hold on, Scott. Here's the issue, though. The biggest thing about it is Deion didn't only call out the NFL scouts for not visiting him, and he did that, but he also called out the HBCUs because he found out that someone like an Alcorn got like 320,000. Arkansas State got 400. He found all of those, but then he also found out Marshall got 1.2 million. Marshall got 1.2 million. App State got 1.4 million. Both of them won the games. He found out those numbers, and he is saying to the schools he wants them to. Southern, I think, got like 340. The Southern for getting absolutely mauled, and it's like by LSU, and it's like he is saying to them, you need to negotiate $750,000 to $1 million every single one of you.
Right.
But the thing is, Deion Sanders can do this. See, I don't want Deion in a Power 5 school because to me, he's doing God's work. He's trying to fix up a system that has had to go hat in hand whatsoever to every single time to the government to get money every single year. They have to go pay bills. They have to get all this. Guess what? Jackson State, they have a guy like Deion who can use his own money to go get them state-of-the-art equipment, a brand spanking new locker room, a brand spanking new field, all that stuff. But this is the thing. he can do every single exactly. And I'm saying every single time that he gets called to go to a Power 5 school, who else? Who? Eddie George? I mean, maybe he's the closest, but who's going to go call the schools out to get better? And that's like, and I can understand the schools. I can completely understand the schools that don't want to. They are afraid to. They are afraid to tip the pot. They're afraid to make people mad. They're afraid not to get these games. They're afraid to say they want 750,000 or they won't get the game because that 320 will pay for some bills.
Yes,
it might get them a building. It might do some renovations. It's things that they've needed for ages. There's things that are probably falling apart. Jackson State has all the money in the world now because of Deion.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody's got Deion. And it's like, and I love the idea of Deion around to be able to call them out and do these things. Maybe they'll get other names. But if he goes to a Nebraska or another Power 5 school, HBCUs will be right back to hat in hand again.
Yeah.
I want him doing what he's doing.
No, I would agree. To Scott's point about foreseeing Nebraska bringing them on, Nebraska on another side of things, they're thinking in the big picture as far as on the field, because the Big Ten has pretty much been Ohio State, sometimes Penn State, and then everyone else. They're tired of being a part of everyone else. They think Deion, or they would think Deion, would be the man to help them take back the Big Ten. Nebraska hasn't been relevant since they've been in the Big 12, if even then. So like I said, I don't want that for him. I'm with Jacob also. I don't want that for him. I don't want him to go to Nebraska because
I really don't. That was why I said no.
Well,
yeah. I just,
hey, listen.
I know Nebraska isn't as well known for their lack of diversity as other states in that area, and I don't want to alienate anyone or any state that may be watching. However, I just don't see it.
Well, you guys
listen. I'm not debating whether or not you want it for him. I understand each and every one of your position. I really do. And I totally understand. He's in a good place right now. Here's a guy that has a chance to turn a entire division around with HBCU. So there's a bigger picture in terms of what the guy's doing. I'm not debating that, whether or not you want it for him or you're not. Just to make sure that my comments are not taken out of context. Okay.
Hey, Mark.
Because I didn't say that. I'm just saying because what he's doing is great. I mean, why am I even mentioning the fact this at all? Because he is doing so well. And that thing, can you ever do people look at things the other way? The reason he's in this conversation is he is doing well, not because of failure. And, I understand Lee Pate saying he had a shot to go to FSU and turn it down. He's thinking big. Well, yeah, he should think big. What is the definition of the word big in this conversation now? He's doing a big thing at HBCU, and as a result, that division has produced a lot of Hall of Fame players. We mentioned them earlier, right? Mm-hmm. So, in my opinion, you can find talent here. You really can. So while people don't want it for them, everybody has a time frame for which they're looking to have goals that you think you've gone as far as you can go, right? And then you proceed with your next challenge. So I am not debating whether it's people want it for him or not. I'm just trying to look at the big picture is all I'm trying to do. That he's on a mission to do what he's got to do now. But at one point or another, you want to take on the challenge of taking a Power 5 school. Like you said, Denzel, you were right. Nebraska has not been relevant, since they went out there and were in the Big 12. They've been getting whipped up on a lot of Big 10 schools all day long. And before it was Oklahoma and Nebraska. And by the way, they're playing this weekend.
That'll be about a 60-point blowout.
Yeah, it probably will. No doubt about it. But at least nobody can blame Scott Frost on this one. And he's long gone. But
I will. It's just his aura. His aura sucks. That sucks because of it.
I mean,
they still have police stints. That's why Scott Frost failed.
Go ahead, Joe.
Anyways,
sorry.
That's all right. I know I opened up a can of worms, but when you bring up Deion Sanders, he does that, doesn't he?
Well, the thing is, though, and you're right, the biggest thing, though, is, and Lee Pate, I hope he did. I don't know if he watched that video. I mean, you guys know because I sent that video to you folks. I would send it through these things, And it's like, yeah, Deion needs a few more years at Jackson. And it's like, to me, he needs the rest of his career and his life there. Because it's like, guess what? This is not just for NFL. What I'm talking about. This is not just for football. This is what he's doing, is the fact that you've got some African-American kids that can have themselves a chance if you get these schools. These schools struggle. These schools are constantly looking for money. If they could get someone like him who can be their leader, if they could go after these things, you know what I'm saying? They could go after the things that they would want. They can do it now with somebody to lead the way, someone that can talk to everybody, to black people, to white people, to everybody. If they could do something like that, they needed it. And HBCU has never had that. They have this now. I don't want him to go to Florida State. I don't want him to go anywhere but do what he does. And if he goes somewhere else, I want him to go to another HBCU and do the same thing.
Absolutely. And man, we really went off on this one. I'd like to remind all the viewers at home, we're sponsored by the Score No Score app. You can find it on Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And we got to go on to our next topic here, and that is Lyle Alzado and steroids in the 1980s. Now, Lyle Alzado was a player for the old Los Angeles Raiders. He was a defensive end. He was known for his intimidating style of play. Let's see, he went to Yankton, just like Scott brought up. He was drafted in round 4, pick number 79. He did win a Super Bowl. He won NFL Comeback Player of the Year. He was a 2-time first-team All-Pro and a second-team All-Pro, and he made a Pro Bowl two times. Pretty decent player. But the thing that was most controversial about him was his steroid usage. And I did want to read this quote from him. And this is when he was in the last years of his life. He said, "I started taking anabolic steroids in 1969 and never stopped. It was addicting, mentally addicting. Now I'm sick and I'm scared. 90% of the athletes I know are on the stuff. We're not born to be 300 pounds or jump 30 feet. But all the time I was taking steroids, I knew they were making me play better. I became very violent on the field and off it. I did things only crazy people do. Once a guy sideswiped my car and I beat the hell out of him. Now look at me. My hair's gone. I wobble when I walk and I have to hold on to someone for support. And I have trouble remembering things. My last wish, that no one else ever dies this way." And we're old enough to remember, the 80s when it was legal. And Jacob, we talked about this on past Pundit episodes with pro wrestling.
Yep.
We talked about the Vince McMahon steroid scandal in 1994. This is back when it was legal, but it was costing lives. But, Jen, what do you think about this whole thing? About Lyle Alzado and the steroids in the 80s?
I mean, that's sad. Like, I didn't really remember who he was, so I had to do a lot of research on him, too. And you stole my quote. Thanks, Jay. Whatever. But
well, you also stole mine, too, because I was looking at the same thing. So I was watching every word. So I have to mention the GMTA thing again because you just did this, Denzel. Great minds think alike. Go ahead. Proceed, Jen. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Honestly, the one thing when I was doing a lot of research, I actually worried about his wife, especially with steroid use. If he's just randomly beating some dude up for sideswiping his car, what's going to happen when dinner's not on the table?
Yeah.
Like, true facts. That being said, he was an amazing player. He was drafted by the Broncos. He went and played for the Browns. Then he went to the Raiders. And then he was so amazing. And it was all like he had the natural skills.
Mm-hmm.
The steroids amplified it. I'm very anti-steroids unless it's, in small doses, like if it's helping somebody overcome a medical procedure, you know what I mean? But like to this level, to like our Sosas, to everybody else, it's just to those levels, it's just not good. And it's sad because he thinks it killed him. He thinks it's what gave him his brain tumor. And I don't know enough about steroids to say if that's fact or fiction, but that's something he truly believes. So there's probably some truth there because he probably found that out from a doctor. There's probably a lot of CTE there though, as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
Scott, your thoughts on Lyle Alzado and steroid usage, not just by him, but just athletes in the 1980s when it was a craze of it. You know what I mean? Because it was legal.
Yeah, I actually had a chance to watch him play during his career. I may be one of the few people that did and remember. So let me give you a little bit of history behind this, since you did a great job coming up with a quote that we were all thinking about. First of all, he was drafted in 1971 by the Denver Broncos, had a really good career there. He played there from 71 to 78, and he actually took the Broncos to a Super Bowl, and only to lose to the Dallas Cowboys under that vaunted Orange Crush defense. Craig Morton was the quarterback, Red Miller was the coach, and believe it or not, nobody thought that Denver would get to the Super Bowl, but they did. In fact, I believe Rob Lytle, former Michigan running back, was on that team. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm almost certain that he was. Nevertheless, he did play for the Denver Broncos 71 to 78, Cleveland 79 to 81, and then he proceeded to win a Super Bowl championship with the Raiders. I actually back then went to Tampa because I thought I had a chance to get a ticket out there, didn't. And as it turns out, the Raiders crushed the Washington Redskins 38-9, so they were able to win that championship. So, and he was on the practice squad for the Raiders in 1990, hoping he can get it figured out. But the reality is, so he, to me, he was a winner. In fact, here's another interesting thing here for you guys. One of my good friends that I met a while back at the Super Bowl, Jim Tunney, was the referee of that game.
Really?
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I had the chance to spend time with Jim Tunney in Super Bowl 39 in Jacksonville. And I think I wrote a story on him for that matter. So
don't let Jordan talk to him, Scott. Jordan doesn't like officials.
No, but
Jordan
there's nothing
would kiss his ass no matter what. He just yelled from the TV.
Yeah, but there was nothing not to like about Jim Tunney. But the reality of the situation is, Lyle Alzado, you hate to see a guy die at the age of 43 due to a brain tumor and all the things. And Jen, I'm glad you brought the CT thing up.
Yeah.
Because, at that time, I don't think a lot of people knew about CTE. But Lyle Alzado was one of the most tenacious players I have ever seen back then. Everybody thought that Tony Mandarich coming out of Michigan State was going to be a monster. We all saw how that turned out. So, and everybody knew he was bulked up and he got his clock cleaned when he was with the thing. But going back to Alzado, I liked Lyle Alzado. I really, truly did. And, when you think of the fact that he was on him for 69, there was such an accumulation in that drug. To me, it was just an absolute tragic thing. But he did get to 2 Super Bowls. One as a runner-up with the Broncos, and the other one he ended up winning it. So at least he didn't go down without a ring. It's just too bad his life ended prematurely. It really is.
Jacob, your thoughts on the subject?
Well, the biggest thing is that was so hindsight. Even when he was dying, he was saying it because he was dying.
Yeah.
In the end, the biggest issue you have with Lyle Alzado is the fact that he was an all-world football player, number one. Number two, he became an actor. Got his own show for a minute.
He did.
He got his own show for a minute, learning the ropes. Then he gives himself the thought process in the next few years to try to go into wrestling. Then he has ads like crazy. He had all these opportunities because he was out there. Now, here's the thing. He could talk about steroids. He could talk about steroids being the reason he beat the hell out of somebody. It made him aggressive. It made him whatever. But here's the thing also. What was the reason behind doing something like that? Did he have confidence issues? Did he want to constantly do that? Because just imagine, for instance, I'm just giving another example here, Scott. Merlin Olsen. Imagine a guy that size on steroids.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a 6'7", 6'8" man. It's like, just imagine if he was on steroids. And this was a guy who sold flowers.
Yeah.
He sold flowers in the 80s. And this is the whole thing about this. You think about him, he probably was just as strong as Alzado without it.
Yeah.
But he would have been really a monster. But he was selling flowers, and they tried to make fun of him, and he didn't care. And he had a great marriage and great kids. What starts somebody? Is it a lack of confidence?
You know what? Let me allow me to briefly answer that, and then you keep going. Okay. I think what it was opportunity. Because you know how it is, someone kind of gets in your ear like, hey, man, you're doing awesome out there. But here, look, there's this stuff and it's illegal. And, it enhances you. So now you're thinking, right? thinking in the mind of the player, I'm already good. I'm putting up these stats. We're getting wins. But you mean to tell me I can play 2 times as better and what I'm taking is legal? That's the reason why there was such a craze in the 80s and why it was spread throughout contact sports, including pro wrestling. You know what I mean? I think it was just, honestly, I think it was opportunity.
Well, the biggest thing about steroids is the fact that it is there. It does by itself. It doesn't grow the muscle by itself because you can't just sit on your ass and inject and do nothing. So you have to work. What it does is, also, you know this, you were in football, and you know that, and you know this too because you were an athlete, you were a swimmer. You know this about anything. All it does is it helps with it helps take off the soreness, so you can work more.
It also adds protein to the muscle, so you get bigger.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, to me, what he said was just hindsight. Who knows? Because remember, he tried going back in the NFL in 1990. He tried getting himself back in there, and the biggest issue about it is it reminds me of Dan Severn, only the opposite. He tried being the same powerhouse as he was when he was 26, Alzado did.
Right.
Dan Severn, and then he got his absolute butt kicked in the preseason. That was it. And then you realize, well, here's the thing. Dan Severn was 35 when he started MMA. And he knew from his get-go that he wasn't as strong as the young kid. So he used technique. So he didn't have any preconceived ideas that he was going to, that he was going to be this big powerhouse, overpowering kids that were just the same size. He just used technique and took him down. If Alzado did that and didn't have as much of an ego, he might have made the comeback.
He might have, now keep in mind one thing about Severn is he may have thought that he wasn't going to be as strong as someone, say 10 years, his junior, but Severn was no small guy.
265, yeah.
Yeah. He at the same time, he was no small guy. So just think about how much of an asset he was because he's got his size. Now you're gonna throw technique on top of it, So
and that's what the thing is. What if Alzado understood that? Is what I was saying. What if he understood? Because there isn't. You get so powerhouse, you feel strong, and the weight room is different from on the field.
Yeah,
you feel so strong. Like you're 40. And you feel so strong, and you still feel like you did. You're still lifting the same weights. But 26-year-olds are always going to be stronger.
Right, just from the age. Now, Jen, got a question for you. Why do you think that he took them? Just kind of bouncing off of Jacob's question.
Honestly, there was probably some peer pressure mixed in with how do I elevate myself to the next level. He was obviously not afraid to put in the work. I mean, he was a workhorse by all accounts.
Oh, yeah.
But if we all drink caffeine. So not trying to compare caffeine to it, but kinda. And if you can use something that's legal to elevate yourself, then why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's also why you have all these drug tests now. However, I have a topic for another show, by the way. Remind me after the show.
All right, then.
Absolutely.
This is just to get people, thinking here this is professional sports. Everyone always is looking for a competitive edge, whether it's steroids, whether it was sign picking, whether it was you know what I mean? Everyone is always looking for a competitive edge because at the end of the day, the end goal is championships, and championships bring money. Especially if you're in college football.
Sorry about that, guys. I had an internet problem, so I'm back. I do apologize.
No problem. We were just wrapping up the topic. But I say all that to say this, to bridge it to, is he was looking for that competitive edge, despite already being the beast that he was, Someone told him, dude, you can be the top, if not top 2 defensive lineman in the league if you get on. You're a top 10 right now. You could be a top 2 or number 1 if you do it. You know what I mean? And the 1980s is so full of machismo amongst guys. Pride, World Gym blew up, Muscle Beach and all of that, and it's like, why not? And it's legal. And who's to say he wasn't pressured by his own team? His trainers, coaches aren't telling him, hey man, this stuff's legal. It'll help you on the field. Yeah, and the key
at the
Jen.
Commanders.
Yeah.
At that time, the Redskins, WFT, who came from Carolina, but the trainer, he was giving, is he in jail yet?
I think he might be, yeah, because he was kind of selling the cocktails of all that stuff,
He was naughty.
So you also got to think is how much did team personnel play a role? It's easy to get in someone's ear, especially if they're young. Hey, this will help us win, and they did win a Super Bowl. Scott said it. They did win a Super Bowl.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
no. Can I go on your point? Sorry about the.
Go ahead, man. You go ahead.
But here's the deal. You're right. When you have a young player, okay, and the thing that I've always mentioned on a lot of shows, I'm going to re-mention it here, okay. The NFL doesn't have guaranteed contracts like Major League Baseball, hockey, and the NBA. You're literally playing on a one-year deal, although there's a lot of money being thrown around out there. Guys are playing for their job every year. So you can rest assured, Denzel, everything you're saying is dead accurate, okay? It really is. You don't know who's in his ear. And he was the most tenacious, intense individual on the planet. It shows. You saw the way he was with what the drugs had the effect. I'm sorry, Jennifer.
But in the 80s, you were not getting paid the money you're getting paid now.
No, you weren't. All the more reason why you probably were going to do it because you wanted to keep your job longer to try to make as much money as you can. Well, whereas in baseball many years ago, guys had two jobs, one for the regular season playing ball, and then they had an off-season job. So you're right. That's all the more reason why you want to be on this in your career. So that's the thing that can't get. I'm sorry, that you can't lose sight of the fact that you got. Now I don't know what the trainers are like back then. I have some good friends that are trainers, but you don't know what you're putting in your body. And you know what? And lots of guys never wanted to come out for concussions because they were afraid they were going to get back and they were going to lose their jobs. I mean, how many times have you seen a player ever want to get off the field, but they don't because they're afraid they're going to be, they weren't taking concussion seriously. And now you're dealing with steroids back in the day. So I guess my point with Lyle Alzado is they did win with him. And not only with the Raiders, okay, he played in L.A. and got acting jobs, and that worked out because the Raiders were in Los Angeles.
Yes,
okay?
Exactly.
And the opportunities in Hollywood were there. But he won in Denver, and he played there 7 years. Remember, he played with the Broncos 7 years and then ended it in L.A. with Cleveland. And as a result, to me, he'll always be a winner in terms of tenacity and things like that. Wasn't there – I know that we could get in – to Kyle Turley is another beast out there of the New Orleans Saints, had the same type of Lyle Alzado mentality. These guys are animals, but boy, I'll tell you what, they were winners. And they were.
Well, one more thing before we go on to another topic. Here's the thing also. You guys, have any of you watched the Hulu thing in Legacy, the Lakers?
I hadn't seen it yet.
Well, I can't say I have either.
But whenever you get a chance, wonderful. It's awesome. It's awesome. But one thing very early in, couple episodes, maybe in episode 2 in, Dr. J was on the interview. Dr. J was on the interview, and he said this himself. He was saying that he had a part, he had a little thing where he got like the 4-inch cut above his head, and he had to have stitches, and he came right back in. He said it himself, and it's like, this was just the day. He said, it's like I said, if I don't go back out there, someone's going to take it. And that's even Dr. J, who no one's going to take his job in his prime.
But he was still thinking that, yeah.
But he had that mindset. And that, I mean, Alzado, not a soul's going to take his job in that day. Not one. Yeah. But they had that mindset. Yes, they could.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the whole Scott. I'm glad you brought up the whole take my job thing because it actually connects to Jacob's earlier point. You were gone, coming back. But he mentioned he used the example of Dan Severn, and Dan Severn being 35 years old. Now you got to think if you got a player in their 30s, their mid 30s, early 30s, that's out there on the football field. These steroids were using an edge because remember the guy behind you. If you're a starter, he's in his 20s. He's younger. He may be faster. He may not be in there because he doesn't have the experience nor the technique, nor does he know the game enough. But once he learns in a year or two, he's going to be a threat to your starting position.
Right.
Yeah.
So, one thing is in the NFL, it's about job security is really what it comes down to. And there isn't as much of it. Think about it. 50% of the roster change every year. A bigger change over there than most. Why? Because for various reasons. Salary cap. Guy's not good enough to play. Find somebody to take your place. I mean, the NFL is just a churning factory of players. Somebody's better than you're going to bring on there. And you have you're paying a lot of your premium players a lot of money, right? So you're going to have to go ahead and find bargains out there and hidden gems and hope they turn out. So if anybody understands the way that roster construction is made, and I've talked to many head coaches I've worked with, general managers, scouts, and whatnot over my time covering this sport, then I'm not saying I'm the genius at this subject, but the NFL is just a different breed. It just is. And
Scott, I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
During Lyle's time, a lot of the players in the offseason still had to work other jobs.
Okay.
And so it wasn't so much the money and playing for the paycheck, so to speak. It was more playing to play on that level because, that level did open up other cash venues, to be honest. But it was more for the love of the game.
Okay.
More than the paycheck. And that's something that keeps getting missed. And he wanted to elevate himself to continue to play the game that he loved. That's how I see it. But it's a different take. But I really don't think it was necessarily for the love of the money, because if it was just that, then why in the world are you going to die in backwoods Oregon?
Well, but then if you're going to say that, Jennifer, how many guys make millions of dollars and they're bankrupt within a few years?
Absolutely. We've had this conversation on here before too. The NFL and every single team needs to go out and have fiduciaries. Dean Smith, Coach K, Bobby Knight. They all made sure their guys knew financials.
Yes.
You look at Josh Norman. He lost his contract here in Carolina because his manager, who was his best friend, refused to tell him that at the time Gettleman said we're going to franchise tag him and then give him a deal after free agency.
Yeah.
But the NFL usually has a symposium too, though, when they bring their
they're not forced to go to.
That doesn't mean anything. They're just trying to say, watch out for who you have around you. But just because you're told that doesn't mean you're going to execute it.
Right.
It doesn't. But
Lamar Jackson grieved for having his mom as an agent. No one's going to look out for you more than mom.
Yeah, and you know what? And you know what? True. This. It's not guaranteed that they're going to take the advice. However, I will say that Michael Irvin once said in an interview, I wish I would have had this talk when I first came into the league.
We've talked about this on Pundits Pundit. I'll tell you this, Scott. We've talked about this on Pundits Pundit. The one great thing that we have over the next few years is the comparison to the old days. Like I brought this up before. Moses Malone was in the league 11 years too late, way too much. And then he left the league, even though he had about 12 rebounds a game. He once had 16 if he would have retired. But early, he would have had 16 rebounds a game. He would have retired about 10, 11 years. Instead, he got to about 11 or 12, and it's because his knees were terrible. But he just kept playing and kept playing. And it tries to get that paycheck. We're not going to see this with Kevin Durant, James Harden. We're not going to see this with LeBron. We're not seeing this with the regulars. Stephen Curry is about to sign $1 billion contract with the Under Armour, with a lifetime contract. These guys now, these athletes are learning money. You brought up Jen, fiduciaries. They're starting to get better with this.
And it needs to be because, I look at David Tepper. I'm like, I don't know if he has people in there. I think it would probably be against NFL rules for him to advise the players on finances. But just because I know how the NBA works too. And I know MJ can't help pick who's going to get, air whatevers and with Nike. But
air whatevers. Yeah, pick one.
Whatever. But I hope David Tepper was a smart one, because I even tweeted the Panthers. I'm like, I will come in and give a financial class, just basic financials to these players if you guys want. I won't charge a thing, because I don't want these guys who are out there risking their lives, risking their livelihood. They're
nothing to show for it.
Right.
And exactly, just because you have loyalty to people who may not have loyalty to you.
I'll bring this quick. We'll get to the fourth and final. The reason that Deion did that video, going back to that one earlier, the reason he did that video is because he remembers at Southern when they went to play Georgia, one guy got paralyzed. They got $340,000.
Well, and look at what Deion's been going through health-wise himself.
Who?
What Deion's been going through health-wise himself. That's why he's making a big deal about this right now, because he has a huge platform. Like Deion Sanders has always had a huge platform. And
but that's the reason. That's the reasoning, though. It's like one of their guys got paralyzed, and they got like $340,000 in Georgia and got beat like 63-3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jen. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, we're in the last 10 minutes of the show. Once again, everyone, we are sponsored by the Score No Score app. You can find it on the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. And now for our next topic, and possibly final one, is owners and the bromance with bad coaches. I feel like Jen came up with this topic, but I may be wrong. I knew it because she's going to bring up Matt Rule. Watch.
Skip this one.
I knew it. She's going to bring up Matt Rule. Watch. So
I'm not. I was looking for other ones.
I'm bringing Matt Nagy up. I'll bring Matt Nagy up.
Oh,
I got one right now.
Chicago has a list of them. So does the Patriots.
I got one right now, and that's Jerry Jones and
Mike McCarthy.
I knew you were going to bring up McCarthy. I actually put Matt Rule on my list.
Well, here's the thing. Well, as far as McCarthy goes, this is just me personally. I could be wrong, but I feel like he's a placeholder. I think Sean Payton's going to be the head coach of the Cowboys next year or the year after. Now, as far as Jason Garrett goes, and I won't even call him bad. I'll call him average because literally he went 8-8 all those years. But
and he got a couple of 13-3s here and there.
Yeah, here and there. Yeah, maybe a 12 winner here, but it was resounding not only just amongst, other watchers of football, but Cowboys fans, like Garrett should have been gone a long time ago. Why did Jerry Jones stick with him for so long? Why? But Jerry Jones is known to have these in close personal relationships with these coaches and players. He had one with Tony Romo. He had one with Dez Bryant, and it leads to them overstaying their tenure, I don't know. I digress. I mean, it could be a myriad of reasons. But
talk about he kissed his ass.
I'll make a deal with you guys. You ready? If you want to hit that Suns topic, I'll keep my comments really short and sweet on this one. How's that sound? Okay, fair enough. To get 4, because I think this is a hot one. But the reality is, you're right. Jerry Jones is excessively loyal to his coaches. He really is. And no, Jennifer. Well, he is really loyal.
Yeah, he's loyal to the ones because they like their job security. But in the end, he gets past his prime Parcells. He gets past his prime Wade Phillips. He gets. I'm just trying to think. Dave Campo. He gets some ridiculous names.
Phillips did go 12-4.
Not a single one of them are really going to. I mean, the old Parcells would have told him to get the hell out. Get the hell out of that place. And I'm just saying, Parcells was old by that point. He isn't going to get anybody that's going to tell him that. I mean, they were talking about Sean Payton. No way.
Here's the deal. Let me interrupt you, Jacob.
Sure.
First of all, if we want to move this to next week to talk about it more, we can.
Okay.
But Sean Payton cannot coach for another NFL team for 2 years.
Yeah.
It is part of his contract with the Saints. So my girl, Megan Price, if that is truly the deal, Megan, I love you. I'm sorry, but you're stuck with McCarthy for another year. But that is what Sean Payton's contract says. And if y'all don't think, I don't know, that idiot, that ingenious idiot, because I don't like him, contract, then y'all are mistaken, because I do.
However, no, and I'm not questioning it, but it still reiterates, kind of my point is McCarthy is a placeholder.
Right.
Yeah.
McCarthy's the placeholder. I'm telling you, Jerry Jones wants Sean Payton.
He does.
I think Mike Tomlin is the only NFL coach that's not a placeholder right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Jacob, can I say something, buddy?
Absolutely.
Thanks for validating my point, because you just made all my points with me, and I didn't have to extend my voice on that one. I really did. I mean, certain parts of them I do. But you're right. You already listed a bunch of coaches that were there for a short period of time, and they got McCarthy way past when he was supposed to go, and he is a player. So you guys all validated my point.
Yeah,
I didn't extend my voice too much over this one.
McCarthy. If McCarthy looks like a divorced dad who's getting a little bit too much alcohol in him and trying to get the kids for the weekend while he has the alcohol in him.
Right.
I mean, it's just what it is. He looks
McCarthy.
He's terrible.
McCarthy will all day long. All effing day long.
Yeah.
McCarthy would not mess with our culture. He would not. No. I would take McCarthy over Matt Rule any day of the week. I think he would actually be polite, and he actually communicates with his players.
Yeah, but you can take a traffic cone over.
And I know that to be a fact.
You can take a traffic cone over Rule. That doesn't say a whole lot.
When I say I would be a better head coach than Rule, then that's the thing. But I actually had a list of other coaches too.
Yeah, I can agree with that. You would be better than Rule.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, let's face the reality. The reality is Jennifer doesn't like Matt Rule, period. What else can I say?
Like him. Rule reminds me too much of Nagy.
Well, Scott, Matt Rule belongs in college.
Last year, Trey Boston tweeted out that the entire NFL, that a Bills player told him that the entire NFL had a send Rule back to school campaign going on.
Well,
I guess he finally got inducted to the Hall of Fame, Sam Mills.
And once again,
guess what came back on Sunday? Keep pounding.
And what did school do to ask for Rule? What did they do?
Baylor can have him back.
No, they don't need him. He needs to go to a YMCA and learn how to coach.
Just not in Charlotte metro area. I'd be fearful for their children.
Well, the bottom line is you guys are right. Matt Rule, I believe, not all college coaches make it in the NFL, and I think Matt Rule subsequently winds up back in college.
Right. Pete Carroll is one of the few. Jimmy Johnson, one of the few. Pete Carroll had to go in and out of college before he finally started making it in the pros, though.
Only three that won.
And actually, that brought me up to one of the coaches that I was thinking of too. Rich K-O-T-I-T.
Kotite. Well, what about John Robinson? He did pretty well from USC, right? To the Rams. He did fine.
No, I was just thinking like the Jets hung on to Rich too long. Also, like the Jets used to be solid back in the 80s, early 90s. Yeah. And then they just hit really bad coaches and they haven't gotten out of it.
Rich Kotite. Kotite sounds like a name you had for something advertised during the soap operas in the 80s.
Yeah, I can't believe he actually. Jennifer,
when we're not on air, I'll tell you what else it sounds like.
Well, Jim, they did have Rex Ryan, which they weren't bad at all. They made 2 AFC Championship games. They just couldn't beat the Patriots or the Steelers.
Right. But the Patriots also had some bad coaches too.
Before Belichick.
Yeah, but Belichick kind of sucked as a coach before he became Belichick.
Yeah, but he was creating. In truth, he was creating an offense in Browns in Cleveland. He had Nick Saban. He had Kirk Ferentz.
Bad coach.
I'm just saying he had these guys. He had all these guys that are all starting over there. So in a certain way, things were working out like that. He had all kinds of different coaches who are really good coaches.
Side note, did you know Bill Belichick was a ball boy for the Orioles?
Well, here, you want me to bring in a very interesting irony when it comes to Cleveland, okay? Bill Belichick struggled there and did well in the second act. Chuck Daly failed in Cleveland and won a championship with the Pistons for the Bad Boys. So
2 championships. Yeah.
A couple championships. And the Pistons were legendary, of course.
I don't consider Belichick that bad considering the situation in Cleveland. Right. I didn't consider him that bad.
No, I thought he actually did a decent job.
He was just learning. He was coming off the defensive coordinator of the Giants. He was fine. Everything I did. He was just learning his system. And sometimes it takes a while. I mean, guess who else had to do that? Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Well, Belichick, like Don Shula, used to be an assistant coach of the Detroit Lions. Enough said. And again,
well, guys, we are in the last minute of the show. Thanks to everybody who watched and commented and reacted. Well, of course, we'll be back next week. I guess I said a part 2 with this topic. Maybe we should bring it back next week.
Yeah. I could get interrupted tonight. Sorry for interrupting you, Jay.
I absolutely apologize for interrupting you. And
how
I say
rude?
Next week,
How rude?
Okay, there. Okay,
I'm telling your
Mary
mama.
Kate and Ashley. Okay, there, Mary Kate and Ashley. But
I'm gonna have Jay call your mom and tell on you.
Yeah. She hung up. She wouldn't answer the phone. She wouldn't know the number. The biggest thing about it though is I say next week even though we're going to talk about this on this Sports Exchange. Next week we need to talk about Robert Sarver.
Right.
Absolutely. I do know you guys got to get the Sports Exchange going. So most definitely tune in to Scott, the Motor City Mad Mouth, Morganroth social media, because they will be going on the air here shortly. Thanks to everybody who was watching the Pundits Pundit. Jen, where can everybody find you real quick?
You can find me on Tuesday nights at 7:30 Eastern, 3 Chicks in a Pod for the next 2 weeks, Confidential, plus this Saturday at 7:50 Eastern, as we have a major event coming live for the Confidential show. Then you can also find me on the NFL, Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel, inside the pigskin with Scott Motor City Mad Mouth on Thursday nights as well. Obviously, the Pundits Pundit tonight during the season, and actually I need to tell you some stuff, Jay, later, but during the season, the NBA Carousel as well.
All right. Scott, you go ahead, man.
All right, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version.
Thanks,
that's
April.
on the Cliff Notes version. Will be Twitter at Tribune South, and please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. I'm glad we're going to carry 2 of these other topics over to next week because I think they're very important and they'll never be timely considering what you guys put up at Versus Sarver. So, my internet didn't do me a whole lot of favors for a couple of minutes, so I'm glad we got back on quickly. But I love being on this show, and to partner up with Pundits Pundit Sports Exchange every Wednesday night to me is the best thing that we've created, and I'm excited as heck that we have this joint venture with both shows to work with each other to do what we've got to do. So there you go.
Yep.
Tribune South on Twitter. Please subscribe to South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Jay, on you.
Yep. And Jen, thank you for coming tonight. We always love you. It's like
I was the original Pundit Pundit's assistant.
Yes, you were. Yeah.
All right.
You were. And it's like, and the best.
Then you had told me I wasn't doing a good enough job. You brought Denzel in.
Yeah.
Man had to do the job.
Yeah.
Little girl couldn't do it.
I needed to bring Denzel in for the looks. No.
I'm going to drive to Atlanta. Hey, Jay, you want to meet me in Atlanta? I got to go meet up somebody.
Okay, man.
Bring the pups. I'll babysit.
And Jay, where can people find you at?
All right, real quick. Let's see. Pundits Pundit, of course, every Wednesday with my cohorts on the screen. Also, Confidential and producing. That'll be Tuesday nights. Latest start time of any show on the network, 11 Eastern. So stay up for that 1 extra hour if you can. And tune into Confidential. Also, Basketball Sunday with myself, Dom, Will, and Jacob. And also The Gauntlet, myself, JJ, and Dom. And looks like we're all out of time, y'all. So for Jen,
Denzel, just so you know, Jennifer added me to Basket Bros, man. I'm looking forward to being on.
I forgot to say Basket Bros. I'm sorry, we auded. Okay. I produced Basket Bros, and these 3 gentlemen, along with our man Will and Don Darubas, are part of it. Come check us out on Sunday nights at 7:30 p.m. changing this week. To check us all out. It's early, it's basketballs 2010s and before, and some hyperbole as well. It's a great time. Come check us out.
Mm-hmm. And for Jen and Jacob and Scott, I am Denzel Snipes, and we will see you all in 7 days. Take care and be safe. Also, Sports Exchange coming up next. Go find Scott and join.